Hey people! You know what? I'm not high right now, and I'm still manifesting ecological solutions for health and harmony. That's my job over here at the Snackingdom, where we develop tasty protein sources made with the hemp seeds and spearhead sustainable advocacy for a response to omega-3 deficiency that doesn't overfish the oceans. So I want to briefly talk about crises to put some things in context for the hempsters out there and nutritional wellness and eco-foodie friends of mine, just to help you all keep things in context. All right, so let's start with some health crises. All right, the PTS recovery is a crisis, and that we're doing it with hands tied, without enough medical marijuana, and without overt omega-3 education and access initiatives supported by the people like the mental health services boards or through the health foundations, is a crisis, because brain supportive nutrients could be helping people's tissues regenerate from head trauma. This is PTS crisis is a social justice issue that we seek to resolve, and that as a mindful cannabis fan and health nut, I want to see that there be wellness, nutritional wellness, botanical healing really prioritized, because guess what else is a crisis? Over-medicating. That's right. Our municipal water systems are not prepared to filter the pharma drug residues now rampant in our bodies and in our waterways. So we are, because we have an inadequate response to omega-3 deficiency, which is the third health crisis I'm speaking to, we are exacerbating our mental health disorders and heart disease risks, as well as lipid layer afflictions. This omega-3 deficiency is scientifically linked to over 60 distinct medical afflictions. And we're over-medicating ADHD and depression, ailments that are shown to be benefited by favorable fat balance dietary habits that are also complementary in and amongst eating the rainbow, adding a fiber to our diet, and having the right minerals and vitamins that support our immunity and proper hormones. So I alluded to the the fourth now crisis, fiber deficiency. Fiber deficiency is common among 90% of Americans, according to research reviewed by Dr. Greger at nutritionfacts.org. Now, this is exacerbating heart disease risks. So, by reducing the proportion of animal foods in our diet, animal foods have no fiber. And by upping our intake of grains and veggies and legumes, we can get a healthy amount of fiber to reduce these disease risks. Okay, now on to agriculture crises. The overuse of antibiotics is a crisis now. If you look up the latest reports, the use of antibiotics that are valuable to human health has increased because of the amount of animals living on factory farms. These are the CAFOs, the confined animal feeding operations that are crowded and breed filth and nastiness, and that is no way to live out a life, whether or not you fucking believe in killing the animals, fucking making them live in filth and cramped bullshit, mutilating them, and wasting antibiotics to keep them alive is a crisis. The amount of pain and suffering and the blood and guts is an ethical agricultural issue that is most certainly a crisis to those of us who are concerned, first of all, about animal welfare, and certainly is a crisis for those animals. Okay? And that brings me to a resource constraint crisis, which is manure pollution and its contribution to aquatic dead zones and toxic algae blooms. Manure runoff mitigation is an ecological hazard, biohazard, containment crisis now. Okay? The spreading of manure has put so much phosphorus on certain lands in Ohio that there is enough phosphorus for 100 generations of plants to be growing, to have as much as they need. So this isn't just like the animal factories produce some sustainable amount of usable compost. There is actually so much in excess that it pollutes our waterways on the regular, and that these manure lagoons breach, and that will continue to pose a hazardous threat to our water quality because manure management is such a difficult thing to regulate. Now, this brings us to another highly touchy but underreported ecological crisis, that is the toxic discharges from the slaughter plants. The dismembering of animals contributes to over 20% of our surface water pollution in these United States. These are point sources of pollution, discharging ammonia, nitrates, blood, guts, bile, and a bunch of detergents that need to be used to wash down these facilities. We are using so much water to wash dead animal bodies that it is a water crisis, a water conservation resource stewardship crisis, because people should be able to use this water, not just using it for fucking dead animals. We're using so much for dead animals that could be used for people, that could be used by people, okay? And for, uses more salient to human survival than washing dead animal bodies and washing their fucking blood away, okay? Now, so that covers with the manure pollution and the toxic dead zones, and the toxic algae blooms from the manure pollution. The manure pollution breeds toxic algae blooms and dead zones. The toxic slaughterhouse discharges likewise breeds dead zones, obviously, and this accounts for over 50% of our surface water pollution in these United States. Okay, couple more agricultural crisis issues. The Roundup is carcinogenic, and it has degraded the soil microbiome forever. The dependence on GMOs has exacerbated our allergies and exposed people to a fatty acid imbalance, first of all, from the shelf-stable vegetable oils that are subsidized, the corn and soybean oil, and is degraded our crop diversity because of the expansive monocropping of Roundup Ready GMOs and BT corn. Now, this has impaired the bees and the butterflies, the birds, every year millions of birds die from pesticides. The neonics, there's been efforts to ban them. I think Obama's moving on that, but we have to be vigilant and support organic production wherever possible. Now the carcinogens in the food supply. This is the hot dogs and processed meats are now labeled carcinogenic, and the fat-soluble pollutant dioxin is a potent carcinogen that bioaccumulates in animal flesh. And so the main reason people are exposed to that carcinogen is through the ingestion of animal foods. Dairy has carcinogenic proteins and allergenic hormones, no matter if it's organic or not. So therefore, one more thing, the methane. Now, methane is a potent greenhouse gas that, if we are to mitigate the Porter Ranch gas leak, which is the equivalent point source pollution of 7 million cars being added to the road, we need to encourage conservation. That means eating less meat, eating much, much less meat, curbing at least some of these breeding programs so that we can anticipate that the emissions going out now can be compensated for by having fewer animals being trapped on factory farms, pooping and farting. Now, the amount of methane can also be mitigated by congestion mitigation. So congestion mitigation, getting people to do multimodal transportation. So I'm looking forward to the year of sustainable transportation in the city of Cleveland, and we can promote this multimodal for clean air. However, that there was so little accomplished for ecological agricultural issues during the year of clean water. I'd like to ask my Clevo peoples to please focus on clean water with me. Help us legalize hemp in federal law to destigmatize the wonder crop health resource. Now, there is a glut of hemp seeds from the very large 2014 harvest that Canada grew for North America. Now, there are so many of these seeds that the lack of menu leadership is a North American agricultural crisis now, because we need hemp seeds diversifying protein sources and destigmatized so people understand the benefits. And when you wrap it around a conservation program and a health and wellness program, it really starts to make sense. People will be like, well, I would do that. I might like chicken and turkey on my sandwiches, on my salads, but I'm going to opt for hemp seeds because of things I already went over, because we're convincing people to tread lightly on the planet, ask less of Mother Nature at this time so we can stabilize these key agricultural problems. I hope that you don't mind coming to terms with this with me, because it helps me to have more resolve and more confidence that we're doing something right by not only to restore healthy land uses and our farming rights to participate in the ancestral agricultural heritage that is, as I said, ancient to my physiology and my hinterlands, but that we know that it's actually mitigating these crises in a way that's diversifying away from these agricultural hazards and these health hazardous foods that, are going to continue to have a place in society. However, we need to be upfront that when when our habits and our practices are contributing to this many hazards, and that we're over medicating because we're not responding to the health crises appropriately, it is imperative for Clean Water that we get active and turn around this situation and make it a happy go lucky time for love to just be magnanimous. Lots of love. Mwah.